Is attention bullshit? I asked the question only partially jokingly, because there are a lot of black boxes out there. Attention data is a relatively novel form of trading information, and there are lots of new people springing up out of nowhere. And whose data can you trust? And this is a major challenge for the industry, to make sure that we can be trusted providers of information that lead to important changes in business outcomes. Now, it's interesting that you heard from the guys at IAS first, rather than the guys from PwC, because it was because of the work that we're about to show you with PwC that we were able to convince the nice people at IAS that you should trust us. And I suppose I wouldn't be on stage here with Sam Tomlinson, a partner at PwC, unless I had some good news to share with you. People don't tend to advertise their mistakes that much. But what we have today is to show you the outputs of a 6-month project that we did with PwC to investigate the Lumen model, warts and all. And so Sam and I are going to talk to you for about 15 or 20 minutes about that. So the challenge that we have as an industry is that attention metrics are increasingly used to measure and to optimize media investment. But these metrics are essentially mathematical predictions, as David has just said. At Lumen, we have a great big panel of people, but that provides the basic data from which to create a predictive model of attention. But that puts quite a big onus on basically David's mathematics. David is our head of analytics, and he is very good at maths. He's got lots of degrees in that. He has a big team of analysts. But basically, how good was David's maths? And up until recently, we've only really been able to say, well, suck it and see. See how this works. See how our models end up predicting attention and predicting data. That approach, though, of trust me, I work in ad tech, may not appeal to everyone. Many of our advertisers say, are these models themselves robust and dependable? And do they really link to real-world outcomes? And so in response to that, we have tried to explain to our customers and to our suppliers how our stuff works. The first thing is, what we do is we go and collect a whole load of eye tracking data. We've got panels set up around the world, passive panels in the UK and the US. We've done research in 37 countries around the world to collect all this attention data. We have millions of data points. But there are billions of people in the world, and there are trillions of ads. So simply having lots and lots of data is important. What you need to do, though, is try and understand the regularities in the data that allow you to predict attention. If you've got millions and millions of data points, you can observe that big ads get more attention than little ads. Or ads in the center of the screen get more attention than ads in the corner of the screen. And you can start to build a predictive model on that basis. With that model, you can then link it to viewability data. If you can tell me that this is a big ad and it's in the center of the screen, I can then use the model to work out, well, I predict that this will get 1 second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds of attention. If it's a tiny ad in the corner of the screen, I can predict that it's going to get 0 seconds of attention. And this is exactly the approach that we've been adopting with the likes of IAS. We have our own tag, but as David and Michael were saying, the Lumen tag, brilliant as it is, doesn't have the wide adoption that IAS does. And so it's the sort of democratization of this approach that is so important here. Because once you've got that viewability data, then you can then take that data and then make impression level estimates of attention. you can say that I bought 1 million impressions, and perhaps 500,000 of them got looked at, but only 100,000 got looked at for more than 1 or 2 or 3 seconds. You could do that on an impression by impression basis by looking at the model, by applying this model to your data. That's what we do at Lumen. We use that as a reporting tool, but then we use the same sort of predictive model of attention as a buying tool. That's our job. But so what goes into this model? Well, one of the things is device. Is your ad appearing on a mobile or a desktop or a TV screen? How big is the ad, and how much of the ad does it take over? How long is the ad in view for? How much of the ad is in view? Where was it? Which website was it on, or which platform was it on? Which position on page? There's loads and loads of factors that go into this, and the model then estimates how likely people are to look at an ad, given how much viewable time there is. I mean, it's a multi-factorial model, so this is just 2 dimensions. There's 7 or 8 to it, but I don't have a 7 or 8 dimension screen, so you'll just have to do the 2, I'm afraid. But you can see that the longer that an ad is in view, the more likely it's going to be seen, and that differs by format and by device. That a desktop MPU can be on screen for 60 seconds and only get noticed by about 20% of people. The same MPU on a mobile phone, if it was on screen for 60 seconds, would definitely be looked at. Or when you're looking at these MPUs, you could say that an MPU on definition.org might get no chance of being seen at all, but the same MPU on The Guardian would get much more likely a chance to be seen and for much longer. So the model is applying all of these factors at the same time. But I work for Lumen, and this sounds quite complicated, and I've been working with David for 10 years, and I still only barely understand how this model works. So we thought it would be important to get a respected third party to check our maths for us. And so we were very lucky to work with PwC, the biggest name in media auditing, to really go through the maths to see if you can trust what we're saying.
Hi everybody, I'm Sam Tomlinson, partner at PwC. I was at the ISBAR President's Lunch event today, which is over in Park Lane, and I learned 3 things in the last hour. The first thing I learned is that ISBAR lunches don't remotely run to time. The second thing I learned is that if you get on an e-bike and pedal really fast, you can get from Park Lane to here in 32.5 minutes. And the third thing I've learned is that committing to an afternoon event at MadFest on the same day as the ISBAR lunch was possibly rash. But I am really, really, really pleased to be here now because I am thoroughly excited about attention, and I'm really excited about the work we've done with Lumen and the opportunity to talk to all of you about it. Just before I get into the work, the reason that attention captured my attention was something that Mike said to me when we first met, when he said, Sam, I want you to think first of all about viewability. And the classic IAB definition of viewability, 50% of pixels in view for 1 second. I said, right, if you want to maximize viewability, to get the best chance of getting those ads on screen, you want the smallest possible ad unit. If you want to maximize attention, you want the biggest possible ad unit, but naturally your viewability will go down. And that, in a nutshell, is why viewability and attention are 2 very different measures. Now, that is not me criticizing viewability, incidentally. Viewability was never designed to be a measure of attention. Viewability was designed to be a base standard, effectively what we used to call an opportunity to see. So think of viewability as opportunity to see, think of attention as actually seen, and both measures are important. And unfortunately, viewability has then been misinterpreted as meaning attention, which it was never intended to do. Right, so that's why Mike got me excited about attention. We then set out to effectively test the mathematical accuracy of his models and conclusions. I say his models and conclusions. Maybe
David's.
David's models. and conclusions. And we worked with 3 major advertisers, all of them in the top 10, top 15 advertisers in the UK. They agreed that we could use their data, analyse it, share the results back with them. We captured a ton of impressions, and then we set out to analyse the data ourselves and see if we reached the same conclusion as Lumen. So, don't worry, I'm going to simplify this. Okay. Our first fundamental conclusion is that Lumen's model accurately predicts whether an ad will be viewed 70% of the time. And when we say viewed, I don't mean viewability, I mean actually viewed, actually capturing someone's eye gaze and holding that eye gaze. So what that's saying is 70% of the time, Lumen's attention model accurately predicts capturing someone's gaze. We can't be sure, but our hypothesis is that the remaining 30% is likely to be attributable to some combination of the quality of the creative and the quality of the targeting. So if you've got a really good creative targeted at a potentially interested audience, that 70% will be higher. The next thing that we did was we looked at the relationship between both attention and viewability compared to performance. And we used here click-through rates as a proxy for performance. We all know that click-through rates are not necessarily a great output measure, but it is a data point that was available for all of the impressions that we were analysing. And what we found, so the blue chart is Lumen's analysis, which effectively, what that says is, the more attention you pay an ad, the more likely you are to click through. It's literally a sort of upward slope. This is us analysing the data ourselves. Pretty much exactly the same pattern. We agree with Lumen that the more attention an ad captures, the more likely you are to click through, which I know sounds like common sense when you say it, but actually proving that out mathematically is incredibly important. Just on these charts, we were looking at the correlation between viewability, so that 50% in pixels for 1 second. We looked at the correlation between viewability and click-through, and literally the bar chart is flat. What that's saying is that viewability doesn't seem to have any meaningful correlation with click-through. That was the Lumen analysis. We found exactly the same thing. So your takeaway from this slide, attention correlates with campaign performance, viewability does not. And again, that's not me criticizing viewability. Viewability is measuring something different. It's measuring opportunity to see. It's not measuring an ad, whether an ad was meaningfully seen. I'm going to pass over this one, it's effectively saying the same thing. The third test, so first test, we agree with their mathematics. 70% of the time, their model will correctly predict whether an ad is seen. Second conclusion, attention correlates much better with click-through than viewability does. Third thing we wanted to test was whether attention correlated better with brand metrics, brand uplift. We only had this data for one of the 3 advertisers, so it's a smaller sample set. So there are caveats here. We did find that attention was statistically related to awareness and ad recall. What we couldn't see in this data was a stronger correlation than viewability with the brand uplift metrics. Now, instinctively, I really want to believe, and I really do believe, that attention should correlate with brand performance in the same way that attention correlates with click-throughs. But we couldn't see that in the data. The reason we're sharing this is we think it's important to share both positive findings in the data and also those that aren't what we hoped and that require more work. That's part, we believe, of how you build trust. And Lumen would agree with that. I know that Mike and his team have done further work investigating this since the work that we did with them earlier this year, so I'll hand to Mike to talk to that in a second. My own view, if I look at the 3 advertisers, we only had the brand data for one of them. we suspect that was more of a performance-related campaign than a brand campaign to start with. The creative, therefore, wasn't necessarily trying to drive brand uplift, and we think that's probably what's masking what we strongly believe would be the sort of intuitive conclusion. So with that...
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Sam. So, washing our dirty knickers in public is important. It's also quite good because the next big industry event at the Mexico, we are all going over to Cologne with the guys from TEED to show results from 16 different studies, all of which have shown a very strong connection between attention and brand performance, which is very, very good. So, what have we learned from doing this? Well, the first thing that I should tell you is that getting audited by PwC is a deeply unpleasant experience. It is nerve-wracking in the extreme to do this, because these are relatively uncorruptible people, and I think it's a strengthening experience, because it has given us a great deal of confidence in our own data. When you do this, we have seen good results, and we have seen our models work, but there is always a sort of bias towards believing yourself, because I have a mortgage to pay, and I have staff to keep on the books, and so we want to believe it. There's that motivated reasoning there. What's really exciting is to have a critical friend look at this data and say, does this make sense? And yes, it does. So the implications for advertisers, I think, are important. The first thing is to say there are massive differences in attentional quality out there. Different ad formats, different publishers, different domains work in very, very different ways. There is an awful lot of wasted advertising out there. Ads that are reaching a screen but not getting looked at. The ANA has just come out with a big report about made-for-advertising websites, MFA websites. That isn't even half of it. Even the good websites can't guarantee you attention. And that was what's so interesting about Justin Reed's talk at TripAdvisor, about talking about exactly that. So the first thing is, be careful about what you're buying, and there seems to be a value in a flight for quality. The second thing that we've seen is that our predictive model estimates attention 70% of the time, which means there's an awful lot of variation that's linked to creative. Creative really is the route to an unfair share of attention, and is tremendously important. The third thing is that when you're developing digital advertising, remember that almost all the time you're getting between 1 and 3 seconds of attention. Most digital ads are posters rather than cinema experiences. And it's going to be really interesting when we're on stage tomorrow with the guys from JCDecaux, because they are going to give a speech about how to design the perfect poster, and you could pretty much take their speech and apply it to digital advertising, because the rules that work for posters definitely work for digital advertising. And then the final thing is that there are enormous differences by platform and by format. It isn't just about websites, but there are differences within the actual ad formats that you're buying, differences by Facebook or YouTube or TikTok. These are statistically significant and consistent differences that we can depend on and use to trade. And it's the understanding of those differences that are leading to the biggest changes in the market outcomes that we're seeing.